Hello everyone and welcome to today's episode of Como Live. My name is Anne and Como Live today is brought to you by the Legacy Amendment. Today I'd like to talk a little bit about adaptations, but instead of talking about a specific animal's adaptations, I'm going to talk about an adaptation that a lot of different animals use to survive, which is camouflage. And so as a reminder, adaptation is a behavioral physical trait that helps an animal or plant survive, and so camouflage, of course, is a physical characteristic that can help animals survive. And so kind of the main purpose of camouflage is used by both predators and prey animals. So predators rely on camouflage to find prey animals and hide from prey animals, whereas prey animals rely on camouflage to hide from predators. So it's both an aggressive and defensive adaptation. And I forgot to mention, of course, if you have any questions during my talk today, please feel free to write them in the comments. So I'm going to touch briefly on 4 different types of camouflage, because I think lots of times when people think about camouflage, they think that all camouflage is the same, but there's actually a lot of different varieties of camouflage, and they all have kind of different techniques to help either keep prey animals safe or help predators be more effective at hunting. So the first type of camouflage I'd like to talk about is kind of the most basic, which is color matching. And this is just the straight up most basic camouflage. An animal or insect's color matches their background, and that's seen most easily in seasonal variation. So I have a little ptarmigan here, and they are brown in the summer and they are white in the winter, and those white feathers match the color of the snow where they live, and so that is just a very basic form of color matching. It's harder to see them because they are a white on a white background. Of course, if you are an animal that lives where there's not just like one solid color, for example, just white snow everywhere, you may need a more advanced technique, and that is disruptive coloration or disruptive patterns. And so I brought a tiger pelt here for that. And so disruptive patterning comes from breaking up the outline of an animal. And so while we think of stripes as being kind of like a regular pattern, if you look at these tiger stripes here, while they are regular in that they are striped, each one's a little bit different. And disruptive patterns help to kind of break up that eye line and kind of make it harder to see where the outline of an animal is. So it makes it harder for a predator to see a prey animal or a prey animal to see a predator approaching. This is most valuable for animals who live where there's lots of different colors and backgrounds, because it really relies on contrasting colors and patterns to make them most difficult to see. Disruptive patterns is usually what people most think of when they think of camouflage. And that's also what like military camouflage and fatigues look like. That's disruptive patterns as well. Disruptive patterning can also be used, some animals use it when they have those like black eye stripes or eye masks. That is a disruptive eye mask, which helps animals camouflage where their eye is to make it harder to see where their head is. And so that's also an example of disruptive patterns. A third type of camouflage is mimicry, and there's actually 2 types of mimicry. There's mimicry, which comes after living models, and mimesis, which is uninteresting or non-living models. And so an animal practices mimesis when it looks like a rock or when it looks like a flower. And so that's something that is uninteresting either to its prey or to its predator. But mimicry can happen when an animal looks like another animal. So when a hoverfly looks like a wasp. That hoverfly is innocent, it can't harm you, but because it looks like a wasp, we're more inclined to leave it alone. And so that's how it stays safe, by camouflaging, by looking like another animal. The fourth main kind of camouflage I'd like to talk about briefly is motion dazzle. And so you can see we're looking at our zebra pelt right there. So motion dazzle confuses our visual processing. So it makes it hard to see where one animal begins and another animal ends. Most people traditionally think of zebras when we think of motion dazzle. However, hot tip, the stripes of a zebra actually are less likely to contribute to motion dazzle because lions tend to not be affected by motion dazzle, and the stripes are more likely a defense against biting flies. And so that's some interesting science that has just come out, that their camouflage is not the way we think of it. It's to help protect against flies and not against lion or large predation. There are many, many other types of camouflage, such as counter shading, or if you're in the ocean, transparency and reflection. Distractions, such as when animals have false eyes or their tail looks like their head. Self-decoration, when, especially in the ocean, like mollusks will take anemones and put them on their back and carry them around so they look like the background. Or even active camo, which is what octopi and chameleons practice when they can actually change their color to match the background. But I don't want to spend too much time talking today because we have two other activities today. The first is going to be a camouflage quiz, so we'll go ahead and do that right now. I have a couple different pages here of animals practicing camouflage. And so I'm going to hold one up and give you maybe 10-15 seconds to look in the picture and see if you can find the animal. When you found it, maybe go ahead and type found it. Don't type where it is in case people are still looking. But I'll give you 10 to 15 seconds and I'll reveal where each animal is. So it should be a little fun way to test your eyes today. So first up, we are looking for a coyote. So go ahead and take about 10 seconds to see if you can spot the coyote. All right, let's see if we can see where the coyote is. The coyote is circled in red right there. So that one's actually, I think, a little bit one of our easier ones. So let's move on to something a little bit harder here. Next is going to be the great horned owl. So go ahead and take a few seconds and see if you can spot the great horned owl. All right, and circled in yellow, you can see where the great horned owl was hiding, which is interesting. He's like brown and gray, and the picture is mostly reds and browns, but still very effective camouflage. Next up is the spotted deer. Okay. This one, the spotted deer, basically takes up the whole picture. Sometimes it's easy to see the little brown spots in the middle of the picture, but I also noticed the antlers on the deer at the top of the picture helps me see this one. Next up is the giraffe. See if you can spot the world's tallest animal. And there's the giraffe. There was, in the early days when they were talking about giraffes, they were trying to decide, are they even actually camouflaged because they're so noticeable, because they're so large. But camouflage is useful not only for adult animals, you can see they effectively disappear in trees, but especially useful for calves who are less able to defend themselves. And so camouflage is really useful for babies as well. We have, I think, 3 more left. Where is the cheetah? All right. He's just peeking out right there. Towards the bottom, must be laying down, probably watching for some gazelles to eat. Pretty good in those grasses there. All right, 2 more. Can you see the wolf? He's peeking out right behind that birch or aspen tree right there. And last but not least, the one I find the most difficult. Can you see the leopard? Those spots are really good disruptive patterning. All right. There he is, right by the tree there, also hanging out on the ground, looking for some food, just like that cheetah was. All right, well, hopefully some of you found some animals there and it wasn't too difficult. And so now that we've talked about camouflage, of course, I wanted to bring some camouflaged animals for you to see. I try to pick animals that were like interestingly camouflaged, but not so camouflaged that you can't see them at all. And so today I have brought fire-bellied toads, ornamental fire-bellied toads. And they are both very difficult to see because of their backs are very camouflaged, but also very easy to see because their stomachs have warning colors on them. And so I have two in there. There's a smaller one who's darker brown, and then a bigger one who's a little bit lighter brown. And we can probably take the cap off too if you want to look at them from above. And so they have really good disruptive patterning. You can see because of the spots, it helps them really blend into the background. In this case, their background is sphagnum moss. These toads are native to Asia, in particular China, Korea, Japan, Thailand, and also Russia, kind of bordering China. And they live in ponds and floodplains and kind of calm waters there. And so their camouflage is really good about looking like grasses and shore plants, but also a little bit kind of muddy terrain there as well. So the lighter brown one I think has a little better camo on the sphagnum moss, but you can see how the darker brown one would look a little better or hide a little better with mud. These guys rely first and foremost on camouflage because they don't want to get eaten, and so they're hiding. But they have a nice backup system, is that they're also poisonous. And so if their camouflage fails, because they're hopping along and they're moving, of course if you're an animal and you're moving, it doesn't matter if you're camouflaged, everything's going to see you. But you got to move to eat, and so if you're hopping along and something spots you, a bird or a snake, they have a defense, which is their poison. And so if they're spotted, what they'll do is they will arch their back and show the world their chest and throat. And you can see, you're getting a really good view right now of those nice, bright warning colors. And so warning colors are the antithesis of camouflage. Camouflage help animals hide. Warning colors are displayed brightly for everyone to see. They can see exactly where the animal starts and where the animal ends because they want to be very clear, don't come closer, I am poisonous. If sticking out their chest and throat doesn't work, they will actually flip all the way over onto their back to just be really clear, hey, what are you thinking? I am super poisonous, don't come closer. They're not actually super poisonous, but they are poisonous. And then if they are still feel like they're not being effective, then they'll start frothing poison all over themselves. And they can taste really bad. They're not lethal to people, but they can taste really bad to people. I wouldn't recommend like touching one and then licking your fingers or anything like that. And they can be mildly toxic to other predators as well. And so they're kind of a really interesting animal that relies both on camouflage to stay safe and its antithesis, warning colors, to stay safe as well. They are both predator and prey because they eat insects and worms and those types of things as well. All right. Do we have any questions about different types of camouflage or my friends, the Oriental fire-bellied toads? No? Okay, well, thank you all so much for joining me. I hope you learned something new about camouflaged animals, and hopefully see you next time. Take care.